Hello, my name's Vivienne Pattison and I work in the communications team at MAF UK. When I was given discipline as a subject to talk about, I must confess that I wasn't jumping for joy. Quite the opposite, in fact. Discipline. It conjures up images of dull drudgery and a hard, tedious slog. I don't think God wants a series of religious duties from me, but a life of relationship and intimacy. So where does discipline fit into this? Then I thought a bit more. On my own journey, I've found myself in wilderness times. I'm glad that I've had habits such as going to church or prayer groups, which in times have helped me along. However laudable and helpful they've been, they're habits, and I shouldn't confuse them with spiritual discipline. God has given us the disciplines of spiritual life as a means of receiving His grace. Disciplines allow us to place ourselves before God so that He can transform us. They can be internal, such as prayer and study, or they could be external, such as service and simplicity, and they can also be corporate, things like celebration and worship. However, just because we know the mechanics of these things doesn't mean that we're practicing them. Real discipline is inward and spiritual, the inner attitude of the heart. It's far more crucial than the outward mechanics. If we focus on these mechanics, then we start to rely on our willpower, and we all know that eventually with that, we're fighting a losing battle. Paul warns us about this in Colossians when he talks about an appearance of wisdom in self-imposed religion. The moment we feel that we can get close to God through the strength of our efforts alone is the moment that we start to worship our own wills. It's ironic that Paul looks at our most strenuous efforts in the spiritual walk and calls them idolatry. We can work with sheer willpower and produce an outward show of success for some time, but it doesn't affect our inner condition, and at some point it'll come through. Jesus recognized this in the Pharisees when he told them, "By your words you will be condemned." We can try with all our might, but willpower has the same deficiency as the law. It can only deal with externals. It doesn't transform the spirit. We can't gain inner transformation with our own will and determination. It's the gift of God, and the change within us is God's work, not our own. Can't attain it. It's a grace. So the purpose of discipline is spiritual growth. We do no more than receive a gift, yet we know the changes are real. Divine love has slipped into our inner spirit and taken over our habit patterns. In the unguarded moments, we bring forth not murk and bile, but a spontaneous flow of the fruits of the Spirit. We're not working hard at being good and kind. God transforms us in Him so that we are good and kind. The disciplines are intended for our good. We just have to be aware how easy it is to turn them into yet another set of soul-destroying laws. If discipline degenerates into laws, it can be used to manipulate and control people. The Pharisees' focus on righteousness was no small thing. They were committed to following God in a way that many of us are not prepared to do. They thought they were going to be closer to God. But Jesus called them whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. So let's seek the path of disciplined grace. It's grace because it's free, but it's disciplined because there's something for us to do. Discipline enables us to place ourselves where God can bless us. On our journey through the wilderness, let me encourage you to experience spiritual discipline. We can discuss it in comparative safety, but to step into the experience is to step into the unknown. Solitude, contemplation, fasting, confession, all these things can seem quite terrifying, but let's take a step beyond surface living, into the depths. Let's move beyond slavery to self-interest and fear and experience all that God has for us. Prayerfully, slowly, perhaps with doubts and questions. Let's move into a new adventurous life in the Spirit. That's the discipline of discipleship.